Conference this week is a continuation of our semester with Mind Lift, and we've been talking about the way we're designed as human beings. We are designed to have adventure, we're designed to be chased by tigers, we're designed to fall in love and break our hearts. And when we are living that full range, that full spectrum of life, we are our most healthy, vibrant, happy selves. And we realize that to everything we've been studying, like to stay in the safety zone or to not do new things or just play it safe all the time is not a healthy way to be. And so we've been studying about different ways that we challenge ourselves and move between the two different systems we've been studying all semester, the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system. What are the two we've been talking about all semester? Parasympathetic and the sympathetic. Yes, so good. So last week we were talking about moving into the parasympathetic nervous system through meditation, and I encouraged all of you to do meditating on your yoga mats, but also take on a 30-day challenge. So this week, the topic for conference is, we're going to say this in one word. Does anyone remember what it is? One word. I'm going to give you guys a hint that starts with an S. Stress. Stress. So how do you feel when I say that? Stress. Stressed. Almost everyone says that. When you hear it even, it sort of like brings up something for us. It's like, But actually, stress is good. And it's gonna make sense with all the teachings that we've been talking about, the fight or flight and the rest and digest. That we can actually have good stress in our life and how that is great for us. But I want to begin with the quote that Casper used at the beginning of this. We're on page 147, master your stress physiology. And this is a proverb. The body whispers before it screams, and if you can learn to listen to the whispers, you can save yourself a lot of screams. Which is good, right? So what we have been talking about is being in a state of fight or flight, and also being in a state of just kind of zen, in this example of the two nervous systems. And I want to look a little bit closer today at the sympathetic nervous system. So last week was a parasympathetic. This week let's look and say stress puts us in the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight. So I want to give you guys the example of a good stressor. So an example of a good stressor, and I'm looking right at Dave so he can be my example. You're my example on Sunday, I think, too. As Dave likes to surf, right? So he paddles out there, and he waits, hopefully in the parasympathetic nervous system, for a set of waves to come in. And when a set of wave comes in, he looks and he sees just the right one, just the right size, kind of big, kind of scary. He's going to get it, not too small, not too mushy or whatever. He starts to paddle, 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 paddle. And if you've ever had anyone try to teach you how to surf, this is what they say to you. Paddle, 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 paddle. Right? It's like you're running from a monster or something. And for me too, because, I'm not the best surfer by any means, but I always think that I start to paddle and I have to look behind and kind of gauge your timing. But for me, it's more like the monster's coming and it starts to stand up over me and like, oh. Right? So Diane's here too, of course. So we can say, what happens to you physiologically when you start paddling into the wave? Tell me.
Adrenaline, heart rate increases.
Yeah, so your heart rate increases, your breath changes, the blood starts moving through quickly. What else?
Hyper-focused.
You're super focused, your eyes widen, your pupils widen, right? Your digestion slows down, your immune is suppressed, so you can do all this work and you're fully on, right, for the task. Your body is, and you don't even have to think about it. So when you guys are paddling into that wave, you're not like, okay, let's start breathing fast. Okay, let's get the heart rate going. Okay, body, come on, right? No, it just does it automatically because that is how we're designed. That's how we were meant to be, right? Chased by the wave instead of the tiger. So you ride the wave, all your body helps you with not just someone actually said it, the physiology of the heart and the vascular system and all that stuff, but also your body has these amazing Casper refers to them as your medicine cabinet, but these chemicals that we have, that we naturally produce, specifically hormones. So if we're talking about stress, there's two primary stress hormones. And when you're paddling into a wave, what's the main chemical that gets released? Someone said it. Adrenaline. So without you even trying, you dump adrenaline into the system. And then, Dwayne is our scientist, what happens then is it sends messages to the body to do all these things we need it to do, to be alert, to get the heart moving faster, all this stuff so you can jump up and on the board at just the right time. Or let's just say the wave annihilates you, right? And you still have to survive that being tumbled around by the wave. Same thing. The heart's going fast. You're doing all this stuff to get back up to the top of the water, and for me, find my board, right? So that's actually good stress, right? We can say that's a good stress. So you put yourself in that situation. Even if we think of it here, I want you guys to think of, as yogis, there's 3 things I'm always teaching you to keep yourself healthy physiologically, energetically, and emotionally or spiritually. Those are the 3 things we train every time we come on the mat. So when you're taking on something like riding a wave or something, you are taking on that physiological and also emotional challenge. We're talking about do something new, do something that challenges you to keep yourself fresh and alert and alive. So even as Ashtangis, I know, has anyone ever not practiced for a week? No one in this room? So guess what? Muscles atrophy after 3 days. It's sad and yet true, right? So we know that with anything, it's never like a destination I arrive at. Yoga is never a destination. An asana is never a destination. A mind state I've put myself in is not a destination. It's a continual flow. Right? So if I want to stay healthy, I have to continue to challenge myself. I have to continue to challenge my muscles. That's how it works physiologically. I have to continue to challenge my heart. I have to continue to challenge my immune system to make it stronger. These are things that we've been studying. That is all part of the fight or flight. That's part of, when I say the word to you guys, stress. It's good. We want to have adventures. We want to be chased by a wave, right? So another example on Sunday we used is one of my students, Yoshi, who this year took a job as a Japanese translator. And so she translates Japanese to English, English to Japanese. And I know when she first took the job, she told me it stressed her out a little bit. And so I asked her on Sunday, I'm like, are you stressed by your job? And she smiled and she said, yeah, sometimes. I'm like, well, what stresses you out? She said, sometimes I don't know the word. Right? Or I don't know the exact way I'm going to translate it. So what happens to Yoshi physiologically?
Heart rate goes up.
Yeah, all the same things that happen to the surfer. The adrenaline gets dumped, that hormone where you're like, oh, what's the word, trying to be cool as you come up with this translation and keep it fluid, right? So the adrenaline dumps for Yoshi, her heart rate goes up, her blood starts to flow faster, it might change her breathing a little bit, her respiratory, and it's the same thing, she's sharp for her job. She needs that. And you know what? That's a good job if it continues to challenge her. So, okay, let's talk about bad stress. Let's look at Yoshi as an example for bad stress. Bad stress would be she wakes up in the morning and starts thinking about work today. And then she starts thinking about work and she's like, oh, I'm worried I'm not going to do a good job today. I'm worried there's going to be a lot of words I don't know. I'm worried my boss isn't going to think I'm good enough. She gets to work and she's trying to figure out what's going to come at her today, and so she's not stressed in the situation. She's stressed before she ever gets to work. She's stressed all day at work. This is not healthy stress. So I told you there are 2 chemicals that are going to get dumped into the body. One is adrenaline, and we need that immediately for fight or flight. We need it to escape from danger. We need it to ride that wave. It's immediate. Boom, there it is. What's the second one? Cortisol. How does that work? How is it different than adrenaline?
It's slower.
It keeps you at a higher level, but not an extreme level.
Right. So it can last longer. Right. So it's not just a dump and then it's gone. It's in your system and it can actually last longer, and it's not, as if you will, as high of a hit. So, and they both can be good, and they both can be, if we don't learn to manage our own medicine cabinet, they both can be bad, right? So we can think of situations in all of our life throughout the day, which is what, again, we're studying, is that your ability to modulate between the two is what's important. I can tell you there's times where you go out to surf, right? And you paddle, and you dump the adrenaline and everything, and you ride the wave, and then I've turned my board around to go back out, and there's like a huge set of waves coming at me. I never get back to the parasympathetic nervous system, right? The idea is I go back past the breakers and I sit on my board and I rest. And I enjoy the sun and the sparkling twinkling of that little thing on the water, right, that it does. That's the balance. But that's the balance for all of life, is that we get the adventure, we challenge ourselves, and then we move back into a state of resting, right? So I want to read you something, because this has to do with your homework. Here it is. This is one of my favorite Casper analogies. He says, and this is about the two nervous systems again. He uses an analogy of the caveman or woman in the cave. The best way to explain the difference between these systems is with the cave analogy. Imagine a primitive hunter-gatherer caveman or woman. When you are outside your cave, you need to be alert, active, ready for anything that might come your way. You need to protect your territory, hunt for prey, find a mate, and possibly scare off competition. Gather food, be on the lookout for predators, and be ready to fight or flee without notice. Your eyes are wide open, your senses are sharpened, your blood rushes, and your hormones boost your power. In this state, it makes sense that your digestion, reproduction, and immunity are not too active. You need all the energy to provide for your livelihood. When you've done all the work outside your cave, you return to your cave and get ready to eat the food you've gathered, recover from your strenuous activity, and heal from any wounds or pathogens. You don't need to be so alert and on edge all the time. Your breathing calms, your heart rate drops, your pupils dilate, and the digestive and immune systems get ready to do their work. Now, here's the problem. Does everyone know what the problem is? Nowadays is when we enter our modern caves to rest and digest, we grab our phones and check all the notifications and turn on the news and watch how the world is in trouble. Even though you're safe in your cave, you trick your brain into thinking it's outside of the cave, and it keeps directing the physiology accordingly. I love this because it reminds us your body is designed for this, but it's designed to automatically do what you need it to do. So when you're home and you need to be now in that state of rest and digest and take it all down a notch, if we're not taking it down a notch, your chemistry is not, right? And we don't realize it. And so I think it's kind of an issue, especially in our culture, but I think it's an issue sort of worldwide these days as well, that we come home and we have all these wonderful devices and things, but they keep us stimulated. I know even for myself, I'm a yoga teacher, but I also own my own business. And so I'm always on for this place. And you would think, she teaches her class and goes home. T will tell you, I'm on all the time for something that has to do with this, and also coming up with more nutty ideas and things, of course, too. And I have to really train myself, as what I'm teaching you today is when I go home, are we able to really turn it off? Are we able to really, or be careful about, we've been talking about anything I take in is consumption. So even the things I choose to watch, the news, for example, is a form of consumption. Does that consumption help me rest at night, like reading a good book, or does it get me all riled up? And so the homework for this week is that I want you guys to just consider your time in your cave. Just this week, just be the observer of when you go home at night, what time you go home at night. What are you doing when you get home at night? Are you really doing things that allow your body to naturally move into that state of really digesting properly your food, and to really relax and turn your mind off and all the lights and things that we have that come at us through our machines, and to just kind of move into a gentle state of rest before we go to bed? Homework for this week. Namaste.